Hello brothers and sisters, welcome to another episode here on Dangerous African Confessions HD. In this episode, we have a story from one of our brothers, who happens to have been led on the wrong path by his spiritual father in ministry. A man known to have started humbly now finds himself working with spirits and powers from Benin. This is all because he trusted a fellow man who presented himself as a true servant of the Most High. This is another story of manipulation, control, and the emotional journey of a young pastor wanting to find validation in the eyes of men, who finds himself trapped in a dangerous web of this sinister pastor. Without taking much of your time, let us now go into what our brother has for us today. I plead with you to please subscribe if you haven't done so, and also do like and share this video, so others out there can also benefit from this conversation. And also hit the notification bell, so you will be notified anytime we upload videos.
I am here before you today, not as the man I once was but as someone seeking redemption and the truth. I've lived a life full of deception, pride, and darkness, but I want to confess everything to you, so people out there can be more awakened to the fact that, in these end days, the truth is not what it seems to be. The miracles I performed, the prophecies I shared, the healings I claimed, none of them came from the God I once preached about. Yes, you heard me right, they came from dark powers that I was promised in exchange for my soul. You see, it all began years ago when I was just starting my ministry. I was passionate about helping others, wanting to bring people to Christ. But deep down, I felt there was something missing in my life. I had the ambition, the knowledge, and the voice, but success wasn't coming fast enough. I prayed and fasted, but things weren't moving as quickly as I wanted. Then, one day, I met a man, an older, well-respected prophet in the ministry. You see, I told you I will only talk about my story and not to talk about anybody. I do not want it to feel like I am hiding anyone's identity. He is known across the country for his divine gifts, his ability to heal the sick, and to perform miracles that left the crowds in awe. But there was something different about him. A quiet authority, a knowing in his eyes that I couldn't place. When I first saw him, I was in awe. He had everything I ever wanted, a successful ministry, a large congregation, wealth, influence. And people loved him. Everyone who encountered him spoke of his wisdom and divine connection to God. This day that I met him, I will never forget it for any reason. Because at first, it sounded good with everything I did with what he led me into. But then again, coming to the full realization of the negative things it has caused in my life, I can never forget it. It was a day I will never forget, a moment that felt like destiny itself had led me to that very place. I was at a church conference in the capital, eager to learn, to grow in the ministry, to connect with others who shared my passion for serving God. Among the crowd of pastors and leaders, there was one man who stood apart. His presence was commanding, almost magnetic. People spoke in hushed tones about him. He was revered and feared in equal measure. I had heard rumors, whispers about his ability to heal the sick with a touch, to see the future with terrifying clarity, to speak words that would bring miracles into being. They said he had a direct connection with God, that his prayers were like fire that could cleanse any soul. But as a young pastor, I was skeptical. How could one man possess all of this power? Wasn't the Bible clear about who the true source of miracles was? I kept on thinking about this whole thing throughout the period of the seminar. But there was something about the way he moved through the crowd. He didn't seem to walk, he glided, like a man who had ascended above the world. His eyes, dark, piercing, and all-knowing, caught mine across the room. There was an unsettling calm about him, a knowing look that sent a shiver down my spine. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was in the presence of something far beyond my understanding. As the conference went on, I found myself watching him more closely. I couldn't help it. I was drawn to him, though I wasn't sure why. After his sermon, the crowd surrounded him, eager to receive his blessing. I hesitated but felt an overwhelming urge to approach him, to be near him. I had to know more. I made my way through the crowd, and as I did, I saw his gaze shift toward me. His eyes locked onto mine with such intensity that I felt as if he could see right through me. Without a word, he extended his hand and gestured for me to come forward. The others parted like the Red Sea, as if they all knew this moment was for me. I felt a strange energy surge through my body as I stepped closer. The first thing he said to me right there was that, "Pastor, I have been waiting for you." My heart skipped a beat. How did he know who I was? I had never met this man before, and yet he spoke as though he had known me my entire life. He told me that he sees the fire in my heart. He said I was a man of great potential, but I have been searching in the wrong places. He said that I have been trying to walk in the light, but the shadows call to me. He said the power I seek is not found in the simple acts of ministry. There is more for you, far more than I have imagined. At that moment, something deep inside me stirred. I had always felt a hunger for more success, more influence, more power. I thought it was the hunger to serve God better, to help more people. But his words resonated in a way I couldn't explain. It was as if he had peeled back the layers of my soul and seen my deepest, darkest desires. He didn't judge me for them, he simply understood. He told me that he can't give me what I seek. He made me realize so many things about my own path. He told me the path I walk is noble, but I have not yet seen the fullness of what is possible. He said I should become his spiritual son, and he can show me a power that will make my ministry not only grow, but flourish beyond my wildest dreams. He said I will lead thousands, heal hundreds, and speak prophecies that will shape nations. The words sounded like a dream. At that moment, I felt a sudden rush of excitement, of longing. I had seen other pastors, those who were blessed in ways that went beyond normal preaching, who seemed to live in an entirely different realm. I wanted that. I wanted to be that. But I had always believed that such things came from God. Could I really believe that someone just like me, a prophet who walked so close to the divine, would offer me a power that wasn't from God? He must have sensed my hesitation, for he leaned in slightly, lowering his voice to a near whisper. He told me that I do not need to fear. He said everything he does is in service to a higher purpose. He said the powers he wields, the miracles he performs, they are not from evil. They are simply from a different source. A source that has been hidden from the world, a source that has been waiting for me to find it. He said I was special, and the time for my true destiny is now. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to reject his words, to walk away and continue on the path I had known. But another part of me, one I couldn't ignore, felt that this man held the key to something I had been searching for my entire life. That night, he saw the conflict in my eyes and smiled a knowing smile. He told me to come with him, so he can show me the path to true greatness. My brother, for the next chapters in my life, he became more than a prophet to me. He became a guide, a mentor, someone I could trust, a man who offered me not just friendship, but a destiny far greater than the one I had imagined. I had deep conversations, hours in his presence, listening to his teachings. He spoke of a secret order, a group of people who had unlocked the true power of the universe. They weren't bound by the constraints of religion or traditional faith. Instead, they harnessed the dark forces that governed the unseen world, the forces that could make ordinary men extraordinary. He told me that these powers could heal the sick in an instant, bring wealth and influence, and make prophecies that could change the course of history. During the initial period of our relationship, I was made to understand that, whatever he has is the true power of the universe. It is not evil, but it is not understood by the world. It is ancient, and it is waiting for me to also claim it. For the first time in my life, I began to see the world in a new light. The boundaries of good and evil blurred in his words. Everything I had been taught seemed so small compared to the vastness of what he was offering. His connection to me deepened. He became my mentor, my spiritual father. He spoke to me not just as a pastor, but as a son, and I, in turn, began to trust him with my deepest fears and desires. As our relationship deepened, he began preparing me for the next step, his way of showing me the true power I had always sought. He promised me that if I followed his teachings, I would become a force to be reckoned with, one whose ministry would be unstoppable. But what I didn't realize, what I couldn't have known then, was that this path would lead me into the darkest corners of the spiritual world, a place where I would sacrifice my soul for a power that could never truly satisfy. After he had planted the seeds of curiosity and desire in me, he told me there was only one way for me to fully unlock the power I so desperately sought. He told me that the path to the power I seek was for us to go to Benin. He said there is a place in Benin where the ancient spirits dwell, where the veil between the worlds is thin. There, I will be made to go through some series of preparations and directions to embrace the power I sought. There, I will receive the true power. At first, I was apprehensive. Benin, a country known for its rich history of spirituality, voodoo, and mystical traditions. But his confidence was unshakable. He spoke of this place with such reverence and certainty that I could not doubt him. He promised me that once I passed through the directions and ritual, I would be able to perform miracles, heal the sick, and prophesy with divine accuracy. This power, he assured me, was far beyond anything I could have imagined. We traveled in secrecy, under the cover of night. We took a flight to Cotonou, the closest major city, and then traveled by car through the dense, humid roads leading deep into the countryside. The further we went, the more isolated the surroundings became. The air thickened with an unexplainable tension, a feeling of anticipation that made every moment feel like a step into the unknown. The journey was long, nearly 2 days of travel, with many stops along the way for rest. As we neared the village, I could feel my heart race. It wasn't just the physical fatigue from the long journey. There was a heavy, oppressive feeling in the air, as though we were nearing a place that had not seen outsiders in centuries. The village was hidden, nestled deep in the forest of Benin. There were no signs, no visible landmarks marking its location. To the outside world, it was a place lost in time, forgotten by modern civilization. But to those who knew, it was a sacred site, one that had been passed down through generations, a place where the ancient rituals of power were still practiced in secrecy. My brother, when you hear about some of the things people talk about on the internet and you have no idea about it, don't judge. It is real. I mean the dark rituals for people to be built to operate and perform miracles as accurate as possible is the in Benin. As we approached the village, I was struck by the silence. There were no animals, no sounds of daily life, just the rustling of leaves in the wind. He told me that the village existed outside of normal time, where the spiritual and physical worlds intertwined. I could feel it as soon as I stepped into the clearing. The energy was thick, almost tangible, as if the air itself was alive with a force that could either bless or consume. My brother, this village was small, with a few ancient stone huts scattered across the grounds. The elders of the village, men and women with faces carved with the wisdom of age, were waiting for us. They were dressed in dark robes, adorned with intricate symbols and beads, and their eyes glowed with a strange, almost unnatural light. They did not speak, but their presence alone was enough to make me feel like I was stepping into a world I did not understand. I was led to a central clearing, a sacred ground where the initiation rituals would take place. The ground was soft, covered in a thick layer of moss and leaves, and in the center stood an altar made of stone, ancient and weathered. Around the altar were intricate carvings and symbols, markings that were foreign to me, yet they stirred something deep within my soul. When it was time for everything to commence, the prophet stood beside me, his hand resting on my shoulder, as the elders began their chant. The sound of their voices filled the air, low and rhythmic, in a language that felt as old as time itself. I was told that these chants called upon the spirits of the ancestors, powerful forces that had been worshipped for generations. It was said that these spirits could grant the seeker access to supernatural abilities, but only after they had proven their worth. The ceremony began at sunset, as the sky darkened and the air grew heavier. The first part of the ritual was a cleansing. I was instructed to strip down and stand in the center of the altar. The elders circled around me, chanting louder now, as they poured a mixture of herbs, oils, and animal blood over my body. My brother, I had already gotten here, and there was no turning back. It felt cold and sticky against my skin, but the sensation was not unpleasant. In fact, there was a strange sense of release as the substances washed over me, as though they were purging me of the doubt and hesitation I had carried with me up to that point. Next, they gave me a small, sharp knife. The blade was old, its edge rusted and worn, and they instructed me to cut a symbol into my chest, the mark that would bind me to the dark powers. And that was the mark I showed you earlier on my right chest. The elders chanted louder, their voices now almost deafening, as I made the incision. The pain was intense, but as the blood dripped from the wound, I felt a surge of energy coursing through my veins. It was as if the very earth beneath me had come alive, feeding me power. As I stood there, the wound still fresh and bleeding, the next part of the ritual began. A large fire was lit in the center of the clearing, its flames leaping high into the air. The heat from the fire was intense, but I couldn't look away. The elders, with faces impassive, began to dance around the fire, chanting and drumming in a hypnotic rhythm. Their movements were fluid, almost otherworldly, as if they were no longer fully human. The prophet came forward, holding a bowl of a thick, dark liquid. He instructed me to drink it. I hesitated for only a moment before I swallowed the liquid. It was bitter, rancid, but as soon as it passed my lips, I felt a sudden rush, a surge of power so intense that it almost knocked me off my feet. Brother, at that moment, my vision blurred, and for a moment, I felt as though I were floating outside of my body. I could hear voices, distant whispers in a language I couldn't understand, but their meaning was clear. I had been accepted. The dark powers had chosen me. As the final part of the ritual approached, I was blindfolded and led to the edge of the forest. There, in the darkness, the elder spoke to me in a voice that was not their own. It was the voice of a spirit, ancient and powerful, and it told me that I had been chosen to wield the power of the spirits. The powers of prophecy, of healing, and of miracles would now be mine. But I had to pledge my soul to them in return. The pledge was simple but binding. I promised to serve the spirits, to use the power I had gained for their purpose, and to never turn away from the path that had been laid before me. In exchange, I would be given the power to heal the sick, to see the future, and to perform miracles that would astound the world. When the blindfold was removed, I was no longer the man who had entered the village. I was different, changed. I felt the power flowing through me, a force that could not be denied. The world around me seemed brighter, sharper, as though I could see into the hearts of those around me. I could feel their pain, their desires, their fears. And in that moment, I knew I had been transformed. In all, we spent 2 days in the village. After the rituals were complete, the prophet and I made the journey back to the city. I felt different, more aware, more powerful, as though the very air around me had shifted. I had the power to heal, to prophesy, to change lives, but I knew that the price was steep. My soul was now bound to the spirits of the dark realm, and though the power was intoxicating, I could feel the darkness creeping inside me. But as I returned to my ministry, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of unease. I had what I wanted, but at what cost? The world would now see me as a man of God, a prophet with the ability to perform miracles, but deep inside, I knew the truth. I had given up everything, my innocence, my faith, and my soul in exchange for a power that would never truly satisfy. And so, I began my ministry anew, performing miracles, healing the sick, and prophesying with unerring accuracy. The people marveled at me. It didn't take long and then it started flowing in. The money, the fame, the power, it all came flooding in. But I could never forget the journey to Benin, the rituals that had bound me to a force that I could never escape. You see, when I returned from Benin, the transformation was palpable. I no longer felt like the same man who had entered that ancient village. The power that flowed through me was undeniable. It was as though I had become a vessel of something far greater than myself, something dark, yet intoxicating. I was eager to share this new gift with my congregation, but little did I know that the darkness I had invited into my life would soon seep into every corner of my ministry. Before my first service after we had returned from Benin, he had warned me that, the power I have is great, but it requires preparation. He said I must honor the spirits before I use their gifts. Their demands are not to be taken lightly. Failure to obey their commands will result in consequences far worse than anything I can imagine. You see how it works, they never tell you the commandments and the rules of engagements before you go ahead with the acceptance. It is only when after you have accepted it that they will start giving you the rules. Every time I prepared for a service, I had to retreat to my private altar room, a sacred space that no one in the congregation knew about. It was hidden away in the back of the church, behind a series of locked doors that only I knew. The room was small, but it had everything I needed: candles, incense, sacred oils, and a variety of dark artifacts that connected me to the spirits I had sworn allegiance to. The room was filled with the scent of frankincense, a thick, heady smoke that swirled in the air like a living entity. At the center of the room stood a large wooden altar, draped in black cloth, with the dark symbols carved into the wood. On the altar were offerings, fruits, candles, and sometimes animal blood, acts that would serve as tributes to the spirits I had come to serve. I would kneel before the altar, close my eyes, and begin to chant the ancient incantations that I had learned during my initiation. The words were strange to my ears, but they felt like they were alive, each syllable vibrating through my body. I would call upon the spirits to lend me their power, to make me a vessel for their will. But the rituals weren't just about asking for power, they were about binding myself to them even more tightly. The more I gave, the more they would grant me. Sometimes, I would cut myself, drawing blood to offer to the spirits, whispering promises of loyalty in exchange for their favor. Yes, my brother, I am not kidding you. Other times, I would meditate, focusing on the dark energy that swirled around me, trying to attune myself to the forces I had now become part of. The room would grow heavy with energy, and I could feel the spirits whispering to me, guiding me, urging me to prepare for what was to come. By the time I finished the rituals, I would be drenched in sweat, my body humming with the power I had summoned. I felt invincible, like I could perform any miracle, deliver any prophecy, heal any sickness. And it worked, every time. When I walked into the sanctuary for the service, I felt the congregation's anticipation, and I knew I was ready.
Don't forget to please subscribe, share and like our videos. Kindly hit the notification bell so you will be the first to get notification to our videos when we upload. I want to say today too that faith is a beautiful thing. It can lift us up in our darkest moments and guide us when we feel lost. But faith, when placed in the wrong hands, can also be a weapon, one that can destroy you. We don't do this work to condemn the church or to tell you not to believe. No, that is not why we do this work. All that we want you to know or hear is to be careful. Be vigilant. Not everyone who stands behind a pulpit is a servant of God. Not everyone who calls themselves a prophet or a pastor is truly anointed. Some of these so-called men of God are nothing more than wolves in sheep's clothing. They use the name of God to manipulate, to control, and to take. They preach about blessings while living in luxury built on the sacrifices of people like you and I. I beg you, brothers and sisters, ask questions. Pray for discernment. Test the spirits, as the Bible says. Do not let anyone guilt you into giving beyond your means or participating in things that feel wrong in your spirit. Just like I always say, my heart aches for those who place their trust in men, believing they are receiving blessings from above when, in truth, they are entangled in a web of darkness. I hope that this will be a lesson etched in the hearts of those who dare to tread the fine line between faith and fanaticism. Stay safe. Stay vigilant. And always question the source of power before you place your trust in it. This platform is for us to learn that not everything that claims to be light is light. Be careful where you place your trust. And also seek to associate yourself with genuine people of light. If you've ever been in a similar situation, or if you feel something's not right in your church or community, leave a comment below. Let's talk about it. And if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe for more true stories, because sometimes, the scariest things aren't the ones we see, they're the ones we don't.